Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Hope you can hear me okay. I came out here to play with the dog. Maybe he'll show up in a minute. He's overeating right now. But I came out because I love the snow. I saw a snowflake yesterday, just a single little snowflake. And told Kelly, says, I hope it starts, and it has. Because I don't know what it is about snow that so many of us like, but it just must be a part of our DNA. It's pretty. It's both brings people together and kind of gives you a feeling of personal isolation at the same time. Helps us reflect on the greater issues of life, doesn't it? Well, as my kids and most of my students will tell you, my kids with rolling eyes and my students with a somewhat greater sense of understanding, they'll tell you that pretty much everything out there is, as far as I'm concerned, a lesson. And so it is with snow and snowflakes. Before I get into this, I want to say a word about commercials. Some people have asked, they're really loading you up with commercials, and are there commercials over on Patreon? And yes, they are, and yes, there are, but I'm going to kind of put a stop to that over on Patreon in certain situations. I'll tell you about commercials. I never thought that, that they would want to put commercials on my site, and so I thought, back when I went ahead and monetized it, let's see what happens. I don't know much about this, and those of you who have been with me for a while know that I don't know much about this, and you who are recently joined, and welcome, because we have a lot more people joining all the time here and on Patreon. There's a dog. Hey, you want to say hi to the folks and see if you can, I don't know if you can see him. Anyway, came back to me because he doesn't have anything to say. He didn't talk to anybody except to me. So I don't know much about this stuff. I should sit down and seriously study what I ought to be doing on Patreon and YouTube, but I just kind of get on here and spout off, and maybe I'll start looking at it more like a business here, but I already have businesses that I concentrate on, and this is, just kind of an addendum here. So I never thought that anybody would put commercials on my stuff, so I went ahead and monetized and thought, see what happens. That'll be interesting. And boy, they are. So I thought, should I let them run? Oh, I know. I'm talking to the folks here. Should I let them run or should I take them off? I don't know if it's irritating or not. I don't really mind commercials because I just skip them. And so I thought I'd leave them on and just kind of see what happens. And so they are going to be, I'm going to leave them on because I thought, okay, I'm a capitalist, right? I'm a capitalist, and I always tell people, develop additional streams of income. Now, it's not much, but it's kind of fun to watch. And I thought, okay, I'll spend my time, see what I put out here. If people value what I'm saying, they'll watch, and they'll either watch the commercials or they'll skip the commercials, and whatever you do is okay with me. We'll just keep on going. And I've kind of earmarked whatever money comes in from those commercials for a certain thing. I won't say what it is, but I think most of you will agree with it. And so we'll just let them run. Now, I thought that when I put stuff over on Patreon, and this is my ignorance, that they wouldn't run commercials. Well, of course, it's all hosted by YouTube, and so the commercials are still there. So I need to make a little bit of a change there. And on the what I'm going to do is the videos that are specific for Patreon, and I'm putting up more of them. I will not monetize those, so you won't have to, see or watch or skip through commercials on those. If I put them later over on YouTube, I might not. I don't know. We'll just see. Okay, that's the thing about commercials. So sorry if they get in your way of the smooth flow of there's a wind, and whenever you're wearing a hat, you got to go like that. You got to, hey, skip them. It's okay with me. Okay, now back to snowflakes. The lesson, what should I call this? The lesson of 1,000 snowflakes. I would say 1,000,000, but 1,000 seems more esoteric, doesn't it? Seems more inscrutable, very very oriental, and people just love, ooh, that sounds so inscrutable. The lesson of 1,000 snowflakes. How did our country get to be where it is today? Many of us ask that question of ourselves, and we go back, and what I've always said is every big thing starts with small things. You know, when you first see a couple of things, it's easy to overlook. This, you know, don't worry about it. It's not going to amount to much. It's nothing to respond to. It's nothing to even pay any attention to. Well, we're in a situation here in our country that is the result of not 1,000, but 1,000,000 and 1,000,000 and 1,000,000 and 1,000,000 of little bitty things that all piled up to be one major, you know what kind of storm in our country. And the reason that it got to be this way is because each one wasn't responded to as it came along. There was no pushback, or not sufficient pushback. And when people did try to push back, those who saw the writing on the wall early on, they tried to push back and warn the rest of the country about what would be coming down the road. You know, they were called names. They were called, McCarthyites. They were called a bunch of names, and still are. Well, the movement that changed our country became more than a movement, and now it's a solid half of voting block of our country. It is such a large, you back? Such a large segment of our society that it's taken a stranglehold on much of our lives, and it's about to take more. I went to last night, and you wonder how it got to be this way. You know, we all have our opinions. Well, last night we went to a political meeting, or tried to say. Now, I live in an area that was at one time just as red as you could get, just as staunchly conservative and Republican as you can get. Now, I don't identify myself as a Democrat, Republican, anything else. I'm about as independent as you can get, but occasionally I will register as a Republican if I want to be able to vote in a primary, and that's about it. I know, just like most of you all know, and like George Washington warned about, the danger of political parties, because people will become more loyal to their party. Oh, there comes some more wind. You know, when you get like this, you ever seen the cowboys riding across the ring? If they're ducking their head like that, that's so that the wind will push their hat back on instead of blowing it off. Okay, people will become more loyal to their party than they will to the country, and that's a danger. That's not the way it should be. That's how things got to be the way they are. But occasionally I will dip my toe back into politics just to see kind of what's going on. Well, the thing that's happened with this last election, of course, brings up a lot of lessons, a lot of opportunities for me to teach the kids, and Kelly also. She's a great teacher with this. To teach the kids and explain to the kids what's right, what's wrong, why things are right and wrong, how things get to be the way they are, and what do we think we ought to do about it. Well, I got a notice that one of the local Republican clubs was having a get-together with and going to have a speaker of Chris Kobach. And many of you are familiar with Chris. I don't know him. He's a local around here. Kelly knows his wife a little bit. But I've always had a high opinion of him. And those of you who know, he used to be Secretary of State here in Kansas. He ran for governor, ran for Senate, and of course, because Kansas is turning less and less deep red, he lost both of those to to Democrats. And I couldn't believe it. What's happened to where I used to live? Used to be one of the most. Every time I stopped petting him, he barks. Oh, go play. Yeah. Whoa, let's see. You see him? Yeah. Okay, you want to play? Okay. So I wonder what what has happened to this place that used to be about as red as you can get. So anyway, we went to this meeting. He was going to speak over at this club, at a restaurant last night, and it's one of our favorite restaurants, and so we thought, well, let's go over there. And it was my second son's birthday. Now, he was kind of disappointed that we were going to go to a political meeting instead of someplace fun for his birthday, but he was very big about it, and he says, that's all right, Dad, Mom, you know, you want to go there, that's okay, we'll go someplace fun next time. And I was very proud of him. So we took the kids over to this group. We don't belong to the group, but we went over because I wanted to check and see kind of what they, what their stance was, what they were thinking, were they ready to stand up and fight or not? Or did we want to be more of a part of this organization again? Because, sometimes you make a lot bigger difference in being a part of a group than not. I've never liked groups, and most of you will agree with me on that, but, just check and see what you think about different things. So we went over there, and we also took a young friend who is just now getting involved in politics, or at least learning about it, learning the very basics about our country and the difference between conservatism and liberalism, and not classical liberalism, but socialism, where the liberalism, where the socialists and communists hide now in our country. So we went over there, and I was pretty interested, and I explained to the kids on the way over. I says, okay, now we're going over here mainly hear what Chris has to say, and then also to take a look at this group and see what we think about it, see if we want to be a part of it, see if we want to kind of keep track of them and all that. So and I explained to them, and my kids are well versed. They know it takes 7 seconds to make a first impression, and we're always complimenting on how well behaved our kids are, so I wasn't worried about how they were gonna be. But I said, just pay attention to these people and see what we think. Well, we walked in the restaurant, and we walked back to the room, and on the way back, I had a guy in front of me who was walking back here, and he just kind of gruffly looked at me and said, are you with the such and such? And I said, yeah. And he just turned away and walked on off. We got to this room, a bunch of people in there talking together, and nobody welcoming us, nobody telling us what to do. There was a woman standing at the door, just kind of gave us a blank look. And so we wandered in, and just kind of, the room was full. We couldn't find a place to sit. Nobody paid any attention to us at all. The few that did just kind of gave us a blank, almost challenging look, and very unwelcoming. So we stood around for a little bit, and finally we saw that there was a place to sign in, so I went over and signed us in, and still nobody said anything. And Kelly saw one person that she knows from someplace else and said hi, but we stood there for, I don't know, five minutes or so. Nobody said a word to us. Nobody offered us a seat. Nobody came up and asked who we were, what we were doing there, welcomed us to the club, anything. And we're kind of a hard bunch to miss. I mean, everybody knew we were there. So anyway, there was no place to sit, so we went out and into the main dining room and sat at a table right outside the door. Well, we sat there for 30 minutes as I just kind of watched to see what was going on. Nobody, and there were women at the door greeting people, only people that they knew, because this is a private club. This was the quintessential establishment Republican group. And of course, they all chuckled to each other and talked to each other. There wasn't many smiles. There was a bunch of sour looks. I don't know why that is. And there was, but not once. And that woman, we were sitting probably 10 feet from her. Not once did she acknowledge us. Not once did anyone come over and say hello to us or welcome us. And we sat there for 30 minutes until finally we got up and left. And, here comes the wind again. This was one of the 1,000 snowflakes. And I saw now why the Republican Party is going down the tubes. Because, like we've seen on a national level, most of them aren't conservative. Most of them, they may sing a good song, they may talk a good game, all about patriotism and this and that, when it comes down to just being welcoming to a fellow American, somebody who they might want to know or might want to know them or might help their cause, they couldn't care less. They're all about their own little club. They're all about their own little power. And that's what we see in Congress, too. These people up in the Senate and in the House, there's a few fighters up there. A lot of times we'll see them starting to fight the first couple of years, and then all of a sudden they submerge into the swamp. And they feel that they are more of a part of each other. They're comfortable in their swamp, and they don't fight. And we are in a situation now that's going to take some fighting. And I don't mean that physically. I'm not talking about that yet. I'm talking about the battle of ideas. But we saw it firsthand last night. Why this country is going under. I had a good talk with the kids. We had a good talk with the kids afterwards, and explaining to them, did they realize that this group who claims to want to do something to return America to the way it's supposed to be, they had a chance to make good contacts with 6 people last night, and they didn't, because they were more concerned with just kind of staying in their own little club, their own little group. They probably saw us as interlopers as opposed to potential allies. What a sad state, this country's in when that becomes the norm for a party that's supposed to be, standing for the traditional values. Okay, well, if traditional values include snubbing those that are on your side, well, those aren't my values. The point coming down to this is I see also this in a lot of the patriot and preparedness comments and things, that people are too apt to discount people who don't exactly reflect their views or their way of thinking. Okay. And, as Reagan that said, hey, somebody who agrees with me 85% of the time is not my enemy. Unless it's a couple of important things. And I'll agree with you on that. But too often we discount each other. We try to shove each other over or off into the corner. If somebody thinks that it's time for, gearing up and somebody else thinks it's still time to talk, well, hey, that guy who's gearing up said, not time. If you're not gearing up, you're not one of us. Let's stop that. Come together, understand our commonality, and work with the strengths on that. This thing that started as a single snowflake yesterday has turned into a pretty good snow that's supposed to last all day. The thing that started with anomalies and strangeness in our country that nobody really thought was going to turn out much has turned into quite the storm that has put our country into a bad place and a hole that we need to fight out of. And the way back is kind of the same way. It's paying attention to each little individual thing, each contact that we have, each chance that we have to have an effect on the world around us, on the opinion of someone around us. I'll close out with this one little story. Way back in the day when I ran my gyms, we had an extremely hard training program for those who wanted to be instructors. About 3 out of every 100 made it through. And there was, that's a horn honking back behind me because it's traffic, because I live in the suburbs, for those of you who are wondering. There was a girl in there who, and being in a university town, of course, they were just swamped with liberalism. And so, but I would talk a lot about, because I wanted people who represented me to understand the importance of certain things in business and certain things in life and such as that. And so I would talk a lot about history. I would address the latest idiocy that was coming through, college from their instructors and their professors. And we talked a lot. I talked a lot about, conservative values. Well, a lot of the people who were there agreed with that, but many didn't. And there was this one girl, and I don't remember her real well. I remember her a little bit. I remember her being a nice person, but she didn't make it through training, and so she wasn't a standout. But she disappeared. A couple years later, I got a letter from her. She had gone on and transferred to another university. And she said that she thanked me for all the times that I had talked to them about our country and about values and about conservatism and about the dangers of liberalism and socialism and all that. She said, thank you for that. She says, at first I thought you were nuts. I thought you were just one of those old rednecks that, I wasn't going to be able to get along with. But she said, the more I listened to you, the more it made sense. And the more it made sense, the more I studied. And she said, when I got down here, I thought about what you had said, and I studied it even more. And she says, and I started a Republican club, a student Republican club, whatever, at the new university, which was a large university. It became one of the largest young Republican clubs in the Midwest on college campuses. That is the influence you can have. That is the effect you can have with just one snowflake, just one little thought you put out there. And so I encourage you, realize we're in the position we are now because of little things that all pile together. But the way back is small things, that we do consciously on a daily basis, and let's try to put a snowstorm of our own together and come back, because that's the way to do it. We don't want a war. We want to try to fight this thing. Hey, if it comes to that, okay, fight. But only a fool wants to fight when you can still talk. Okay, so think about our own snowflakes. Think about those little things that we can do every day, and see if we can't do some pushback on this, because that's the best way to go. I guess enough of that. I'm gonna go play with the dog some more and enjoy this snow. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and each one of the little things that we do is a part of that preparation. Let's pay attention to those little things and do as many as we can. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.